And I think that's a beautiful segue because coming up next, I have Master Chef Shawn Loving. This is a conversation, an interview that we had. He's not able to be here with us live today. He's a busy man. He's got a couple weddings going on this weekend. So we managed to pre-record. I hope you enjoy. And I would love to hear your thoughts in the chat. Feel free to use that. He took the Certified Master Chef exam 3 times. On the 3rd time, he passed it. And in between his first taking and the final taking, he completely evolved as a chef. And I really hope that you enjoy his interview and that conversation coming up. So, Master Chef Loving, I'm very excited to have you here and really excited to hear you share some of your story a little bit. And I'll never forget the first time that you and I actually had a chance to sit and talk. We were at Myers Park, and
Yeah.
and I don't know if you remember that well, but
Remember?
we met. Jason Hall was kind of giving us the rundown. I think we were getting ready to cook some classical, and
Hmm.
and you told me about your journey to from
Hmm.
the first time you sat down to take the Master Chef exam until well, at that time we hadn't taken it together yet. So
No.
would you, I don't know, start there? What made you decide to start on the journey towards the Master Chef exam?
All right. Well, first, man, happy to be with you, brother. And I do remember that time at Myers Park because we had one break and one moment. I think maybe Matambre was on deck for you or something, and then we had lunch, and then you handed me a phone or something, and you were like, "Hey, you ever seen this motivational speaker guy?" And it was I'll be honest, man. Like right in the beginning, when you gave me that, I was like, "No, I've never seen him before." And it was like this guy that was like, "Well, you could do it. You know." I was like, "Oh, no, I've never seen that, but that's pretty cool." And I was like, "Man, that's intense." I don't know if you remember that. We were sitting eating lunch together and stuff like that. But anyway,
Yeah,
so I just wanted to start there because,
we were talking about, it was Eric Thomas, right? Or was that the guy?
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
was, yeah, ET,
yeah.
Eric Thomas. Yeah.
I just wanted you to know that that's how you can see that I remember that because I was like, man, what is man, this dude's jumping out the phone talking about you can be what you want to be. Do it. Come on. I was like, oh, all
I
right.
can. I
Yeah,
can.
I will do it. I was like, all right. I was like, okay. You're like, I'm gonna forward that to you right now. I was like, okay. And so yeah, so I do remember that very much. So my journey for the CMC exam, man, it's just well, it was it's such an unbelievable thing because for me, I always studied the class of what I would consider the 1988 um, individuals that passed that exam or during that time. So that would have been a lot of individuals that I was working with at the time, right? So that would have been Jeff Gabriel and Dan Hugler and Kevin Goronsky and Joe Decker and Leopold and just just watching that, right? And so back in that time, it was always this thing that you should aspire to try to dig deep and learn some specific nuggets of what can be really really transforming in your career, which was the master chef exam. And so from afar I always looked at it and thought about it. And this was back when there was no such thing as the chef de cuisine certification. It was a certified working chef at that time. And I lived in Florida, and at that time there was no real practical to taking your certification. You had to have a certain amount of tenure of experience, and all those things. So to forward that, I was always kind of mentally studying individuals from afar of the exam, and couldn't surround myself with that type of cookery or that type of intensity because I was working for Walt Disney World at that time, and so working for them, it was more about leadership. It was really about the X's and O's of guest experience, and um, just service. And so you match that with your food and with your locations, and that was what my mindset was. And so I couldn't really, I had to put it on the chef, more than I could just actually like start focusing on it. But then when I came back to Michigan and opened my restaurant, Loving Spoonful, is when it sort of really started to take flight for me, which is, if I were to go do an extravaganza or an event where you've got like all these chefs together and they're doing a course or they're doing a dish, there was always something, specific about them doing a course or a dish. It was always like, for example, a crispy garnish, or it was always a certain moment at the end to emulsify a sauce, or a style of how they gracefully would finish something, and I wanted that grace. I wanted to feel that graceful approach in the kitchen, and I knew I didn't have it. I knew that I didn't have it. I knew that I could cook, and I knew that I had been around a lot of cooking in my journey, chef, but I knew that I didn't have that. And so to fast forward all of that elongated stuff that I was just talking about, what ended up happening is, all of a sudden I was just seeing that there was going to be an exam at the CIA. And I said, I'd like to go take that exam. But prior to it, I went to this summit, sort of this, you everybody could get together and cook in front of Chef Metz, and as we all say, Mr. Metz, and man, I mean, it was a star-studded group of CMCs there, and it was in Cincinnati. And I drove there, and really, the graduating class and the chefs that passed in 2010 were there for that assessment. And it was a 2-day assessment, and it felt really like the exam. It was, you know, you know, you got your basket and you did all these things, and then they brought you in the room to just sort of show everyone what you could do different, and all these things. And I just failed. I just didn't do very well there, and I was terrible. And um, it was because I just didn't know what I was doing. I had no clue of the schematic of what to do. I didn't know about building the consomme properly, timing myself in the window, and all this terminology that you learn from being around, whether it be a competition or the exam in general, chef. So anyway, I did that, and I just fell flat on my face, man, in Cincinnati. And then I came back, and this was a moment where I realized that, okay, man, I have a long way to go. Then I started getting the itch. I would really like to take the exam. And that may have been 2009 that we did this. I don't know if the date or the month, or excuse me, the year is accurate, chef, but I said, okay, I want to take the exam. And so 2010, the exam came. And I wasn't prepared for the exam. No question about it. Um, I had I had dialogue with a CMC out in the patio once, and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna take the exam." He was like, I'm not quite 100% sure you're ready, but are you sure you want to go?" And I said, "Yes, I'd like to go." So I booked myself a room at the Holiday Inn in Poughkeepsie, and then I got to the CIA, and I got in shock, like, wow, look at this, this big place, and Mark Erickson's there, and Tim Ryan is there, and just, you kind of name it, right? All these people were there. This was the 2010 class, and so it was a lot of candidates, man. It was like it was like a lot of people in that, and so I said, oh, I went there, chef, with like a milk crate thing, like it's like they call it a box, and you fold it up or you can pull it, and that's all I had with me. Like, I didn't have a carton, and I look, and Rich Rosendale's got a truck, and he's got like he opened the truck and he's got like platters, and
He's got the whole truck.
he's got he's got like a cobalt blue cart, like a tool chest, and it's just lined up with different things. Here's his Parisian scoops and all that. I'm like, man, and my Holiday Inn has ants, and I'm getting bit by ants, and so I do it, and so it's day one and day two and day three, and somehow I'm just kind of surviving, and I don't, my points aren't right. I knew that my points weren't actually accurate, but I would go down that hall. You walk down the hall, and then you go inside the room, and then they tell you, yeah, you can stay, or you can go, or you didn't pass today, or you did. And every day they were like, you passed today, and we will see you tomorrow. And I kept like passing each day, but it was a struggle. And I made it to the seventh day, but I knew that I didn't have enough points. It was, I knew that. It wasn't like someone needed to sit down with me and coddle me along to tell me, oh, you need more points. I knew that, and I'll never forget having a conversation with Steve Jonta at the water fountain, and he was like, "Why are you so emotional? What's wrong?" And not in a bad way. He was coming over, which is what made me stop and think to myself, man, CMCs are, they're really approachable people. They're not out for you to do bad, or they're not wanting you to do, they want you to be successful. And so he came over and he was like, what's wrong, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just overwhelmed. I mean, I just got done making cauliflower salad and paella, and I just got done making a whole bunch of mimosas, or samosas, excuse me, that I never made in my life. And I made my window, and I was overwhelmed, and so he was like, that's understandable. And he's like, you should actually really reflect on why, like how far you've made it. You need to reflect on that. Don't reflect on, bad things, because it's okay, right? You survived that. And so then the seventh day was the end, and then me and Chef Rosendale, man, we were in the hall, and I said goodbye to him, and the late Chef Speckcamp, man, never forget it. He's like, "You got to keep going, young man," and I said, "I will, Chef." And then I said, goodbye to the judges and stuff, and so I think the reason that story is so long is because that really began my journey and yearn and not worry about failure. That started for me. Didn't matter what people thought. Didn't matter. I didn't care, because I absorbed so much in those 7 days that I never had in my life, from just, I think I absorbed by watching people, and I was cooking. It's the first time I ever was like challenging myself to be cooking and watching Mancuso at the same time. Cook and watch him. Cook and watch Brian Sodi. Cook and there's Darren Moore. Right? Everything was like, that's what I did. I used it as, well, Shawn, you're not going to make it to the 8th day. So you might as well get everything you got out of it. You might as well take all you can. And so I was grabbing all of it. Oh, look at that Bain Marie. I never seen one like that before. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's smart. Ooh. So I did all of that. That was that first time. And so that's the journey, Shop. That's how it began for me with my 3 times taking the exam. I can't hear you, Chef.
Thank you. I muted so that there was no background noise.
No problem. Yep.
So when you set out, you wanted to go and be successful, but you didn't necessarily have a whole grip on what it was going to take to be successful. Is that
Yeah, I
right?
didn't have a grip. I had no clue about it. I had no clue about those that were taking the exam, who they were. I was in a different time slot from Chef Beelan, so like he was cooking in the afternoon and I was cooking in the AM, because it was 2 classes, because that was how many people it was. So
Okay.
like you would cross paths with your AM class. So it was like AM class, AM and B, AM and PM. So I went there with I went there with the intentions of doing very well, but I didn't know. I'm kind of risky like that. I just do it. I just did that, and I know that that was not right. That's not the smartest thing today, but um, I wasn't ashamed of it.
But by the
Yeah,
end of the test, would you say you were a better chef for it?
there's no doubt. There's no doubt. I mean, I learned so much because it's like concentrated. It's like if you're making glace de voulet. Like if you taste that on a spoon, that's concentrated. It's a concentrated. It's a concentrated learning, and so it's a concentrated learning that no one can take away from you. You own it, and it's yours, and you can coddle it, and you can do whatever you want with it because it's yours. It doesn't make you more bold. It doesn't make you cocky. It doesn't make you. It just makes you more. It makes you have more of a great appreciation for cookery. It just does, no doubt about it.
So if you were to boil down, I guess your mentality, what kept you pushing through each day?
Just drive, will, hunger. Uh, I wanted to see those other guys pass too. Like, dang, well, if I'm still here and I see him, oh, that's a nice schnitzel. How'd he brown that like that? Man, oh, wow. So that's a different kind of breadcrumb. Interesting, right? I mean, so like you got to have like actual physical hunger in your heart too to want to humble yourself to watch others too and see what they're doing. And there's a big difference between watching someone from afar because you just can just watch them and see them, but you're cooking in rhythm and you are cooking with other people too. See, that's what's different about the exam. You cook with people. So you feed off of that because you're not alone, right? You're not alone. So I might be across from somebody and they wink at you. They might be like,
Yeah.
they might be like, did you see that? Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you have those things, and so that's motivating, and you actually get you get addicted to that. You get addicted to wanting to be around it. I think, and that's what happened to me. You know.
So then you took it another time after that, right? And then passed in,
Yep, 2012.
okay, and then you passed in 2017, right?
Right,
So
right, right.
how did you evolve from the first time to when you passed it in 17?
Yep. So that means I have 22 days invested in the exam. So that means I've taken the exam three times, twice 7 days. So I've got 22 days of investment in the actual cooking of it. And each challenge was absolutely fantastic. And one would say it's easy to say now that you would say that you would do it all over again that way. One would say that, but to do the hot fish for example, in 2012, and then to do samosas in 2010, and then to do a tornado in 2012, and then to do I'm so thankful that I did all of those. But your question of how do I feel now about it? Is that what you said, Chef?
No, I think how did you evolve as a chef over the time?
Over the time of now passing it,
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess over
or
the
over?
over the seven
Uh-huh.
years from the first time to the
Mhm.
chef that passed the exam, who had the mastery level to be successful at the
Yeah,
test.
yeah. I think you end up realizing that you have to be yourself. You end up seeing that you need to be you. You end up the way a papiette of soul is done by one chef. If you watch Danny Dumont do it or something, you realize that you may not have trained that way. You don't have that in you. That's not yours. You don't have that process. So I evolved by way of really using the mirror, looking at myself and saying, I've got to actually get better with some things I'm not very good at. And then I started to take subjects and instead of, because sometimes I go a little too fast with just trying to put everything into the bowl mentally. I needed to compartmentalize what I wanted to focus on, and then I started to take subjects like, you know, making sauces or making them into compound or complex things, and then I just kept taking on different subjects. Okay, a study of potatoes, a study of rice cookery. I started to just study stuff, and then put it into play, and that's what it helped me evolve to do, chef, was to take a step back and not worry so much about how my practice runs would be with, oh, making your window, not making your window, because you don't even think about that when you start getting in the mix of the game of it. You don't think about that as much. You think about your cooking, at least for me. I never, of course you're up against the time, that's always, but my cooking started to evolve more, chef. It started to get more, I think, richer. My cooking started to get richer, not as in butter and fat. It just got more deeper, more richer, more rooted, more fundamentally sound, more reason behind the ingredient, celebrating it more,
Yeah, I
not
remember it.
overruling it.
I
Yeah.
remember in my journey, I feel like I at before I started down my journey, I felt like I knew how to develop flavor. Like I knew how to maximize and get the most out of an ingredient. And it was really in that process of, the evaluation and the critique that I was getting leading up to the exam that really taught me that there was a lot to still learn, to enrich that cooking, to maximize the use of ingredient, to really, I don't know, I feel like you end up honing in on ingredients in a way that you never think about prior to that preparation, right? Like I don't
Right.
know,
Right. Right. Right.
I remember having conversations in culinary school about cutting bones to a certain size so that, you could get the most caramelization and get the most flavor out of them. But it went to a whole nother level. It was kind of like a retraining in fundamentals when it came time to, you know, be at the level that I needed to be for the exam, especially when you have 3.5 hours to simmer a sauce to get it right where it needs to be. Like things need to be
Mhm.
small. And
Things need to be really small, and you may not be working with the bones that you practice with. You may not. It's so many different variables, and I think that you're right, that you just get more enriched, and I think that's what happened to me. I just, over the case of time, 2010, from 2019 until then, I just got more committed. I got more committed with my being a chef. I just got more committed to it. I got more committed in controlled my own destiny, and didn't, it's unfair to believe that someone else should push you if you don't have enough fuel in your own tank. You have to have fuel in your tank to want to be called a chef. You gotta, and I said, I gotta fall in love with being a chef in a way that I've never seen before in my life. And so that's what I did. And that's, I lived it for so long. I lived this for so long. And I'm still living it, so, I don't really have regrets for that.
so now, did you grow up with like foie gras and truffles in your fridge at home, or coming up? Like
No,
tell me a little about
man.
where you started, like where you started.
I'm from Detroit, man. I'm from Detroit, and my mom, and her cooking was, very smothered like, and man, her meatball smothered with caramelized onion gravy, and that was off the chain, man. You can't get better. That sauce was right, and it was, talk about pot liquor, talk about wickedness, man. Chef, it was off the chain, and grew up on the east side of Detroit, and I never knew anything about foie gras. I could tell you that. But I did know how to use government cheese, and I knew how to make a very mean Mornay sauce. And I can tell you that I didn't know that that's what it was called back then. But I can sure tell you that when she used when she made a cheese sauce from that stuff, man, I'll tell you what, those au gratin potatoes were good, man. So I don't know about foie gras in that in the fridge. I did not have that. No, nope, no, I didn't have that. But grateful for what I did. you know, I
Yeah,
did.
I'm definitely grateful because I'll never forget our meeting and how that, I don't know, there was something about our meeting that definitely reignited, the possibility, the drive, the tenacity. And that was always something that stood out to me, was just your persistence. And, you know,
Hmm.
did you ever think of giving up on your path?
Never, never. I don't know about give up. I never. I don't know give up, man. I never seen give up. I never. I don't know. I don't know about give up. I mean, you think of it like this. I mean, I don't know, Chef. I mean, like in our profession, if you give up, if you say, well, I'm just going to settle and become this, I end up finding that you end up regretting that. You end up falling into this rut, and you settle, and then you complain. And I never thought about giving up because there's something about being around the kitchen and getting better at it. To me is an absolute wonderful addiction. I think there's nothing more better than that and more satisfying. I don't need members, and I don't need customers, and I don't need anyone to satisfy when I see or I'm working with Trinity in a rondo. I don't need anybody. I don't need anyone to validate it. The smell of that in I don't need anybody else to tell me anything about cooking at that point, because it's just you and that piano, that stove. It's just you, and I think that's a wonderful thing, and it's very therapeutic, in my opinion, Chef. It's very therapeutic.
So, what
So,
is what does it mean to you to be a master of the craft?
um, well, I think that the journey is a little. It's quite interesting because I think everyone has a different answer. I know that, so I'm going to attempt to say what I really think happens, or what happened to me. Well, first you get, there's sort of a depression that takes over because you don't know what to work on next. That happens.
That's real.
Like, what what am I, you start to stutter a little bit. What do I got to do? No, that didn't happen. Am I, that happens first. And then I really, I really think that the pursuit of mastery begins after you pass. That's what I really feel. I think that what you present is validation of what you've been working on your whole entire journey of cooking. And I just feel that after I passed, there's more pressure now than there was in the fun moments of preparing for the exam, even in my failure. Because now you could do one thing and someone will say, is that what a master chef presents, or is that you're always under the you just always looked at like, well, you said it, well, that's what you did. It's so I don't know.
Now you got to
I don't
be it.
know.
Now you got to be it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
now you have to be it, and now you have to, and that's not like, there's no off. I can't just go, okay, leave me alone, off. Every day it's on, Monday through Sunday, on. It's on. It's emails. It's on. It's questions. It's on. But didn't you say that? But I thought you said this. Is that really what a master chef does? Is that it's a it's a full fledged journey. It's full. It's full, daily full. And so it's harder after, to me. It was it's harder to me after. It's harder now.
How
To
do you
me. I know it's not for, for some of the studs out there, but it's harder now because you you have to have more tenacity. You have to have more. What are you going to do with this menu item? What more and more? And so that's how I look at it, my good friend. I look at it like that, bro. I do. I think you have to. It starts then.
right?
It starts.
How critical to your success was the support of your family?
Oh yeah, man. Your family, like your family sacrifices the entire. They sacrifice not having you. They sacrifice knowing that you are gone. But my family has always sacrificed my departures and gone because of all of the international things that I've had the blessings to do. And so from 2008, from 2006, and all of my journeys with the Olympics and World Championships and USA basketball, I'm always gone, Chef, to be honest. So, just trying to create that balance of good quality time when I am present, I think is the reward. Um, I think family is an underestimated thing for you and I. For a good sauce, we got to have a good support system. You and me talked about that an awful lot in the hall, which includes when you lifted me up in the air, when you squoze my stomach and lifted me up in the air.
You needed a hug, Chef.
Uh,
You needed a hug.
yeah, and I just I was like, whoa, 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 right? That might
But
have been the eighth day, maybe. I think
yeah,
that might have been before we went in, maybe, or something like that.
you know,
I'm not sure, but um, that was pretty high off the ground. Just so that you knew that it was a little high. It was a little high off the ground, but I do remember that.
yeah. Oh,
I
man.
could use one of those now. We'll have to do that the next time I see you.
Well, I look forward to it. It's been a little too long since I've seen you in person,
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
So
yeah.
now you're in a new role, right? You're at the Detroit Athletic Club, correct?
Mhm. I
And
am.
so now, do you feel like the work that you've put in towards mastering the craft helps you in your day to day?
I do. I think that me never giving up helps me at the Detroit Athletic Club. I think taking the exam has helped me at the Detroit Athletic Club. I believe all the different opportunities I've had has set me up for this moment of the Detroit Athletic Club. And so one would say, well, how do you sum all of that up? Because one of the things about the exam is that you have to make decisions on the fly. You have to make decisions that were not a part of your plan. This wasn't a part of your plan, but you got to do something about the problem that you're in, right? I mean, no one really ever captures that. No one captures when you adjusted something to make a way out of no way and survive that moment. No one, everyone only looks at the results of what you put on the plate or the platter at that moment, to be honest with you, in my opinion. And so I think that there's something rich about that, number one. Number two, in an environment like this, at the DAC, the interesting thing about it is that you're under fire all the time. Multiple restaurants, multiple events, thinking on the fly, making moves for membership, and trying to juggle all that and please them all. So it's almost like the day in the life of some of those same on the hot seat movements. And so I think that that's why the exam has really helped me so much here, that you don't really remember when you had that motion or movement on the line to do a banquet for 300 or to do a wine dinner or just some of those attentions to detail are now all full circle in these moments that I am with this new property. So that's just the truth, I think.
I think that's well said. What would you have if you could go back? What would you have done differently?
At the exam,
Yes.
which one?
Pick one.
You got to admit that was a good question back.
That was a great
That was
question back.
good. That was good. All right, all
But I don't
right.
know what
So
you know, so I don't know,
I'm
man.
gonna go. All right, I'll go 10. I'll go. I'll go. I'll go in 10. Um, I wish that I had more gelatin in my chemise, along with along with um, glazing my pickup pieces with some of the chemise to accent the flavor. If I could do that part all over again.
Okay.
In
I feel that.
2012, in 2012, I wish I had taken the time to classically wrap each of my tornadoes with a clean kitchen towel and slightly pound them to create the sizes necessary for the correct tornadoes. And in 17, man, that's that's every day something. But I don't know where to go. 17, I don't know where to go. Chef, my friend, I don't know where to go in 17. But uh, if I had to say day 8, right? If I
Hmm.
had to say day 8, I would say that my spaghetti squash, sending it after the effect. Can you pause me for 1 second? This is Shawn. Hi. Hey, Holly.
I can't believe the tenacity and the sheer persistence, right? It's interesting to sit back and see what a chef goes through when he needs to succeed. When it's in your heart and when you know it's something you got to do, you just go about your business and you just do it. And you don't leave any other chance to it. Welcome
All right,
back,
Doc.
chef.
Yes, sir. I had to send my
Day 8
spaghetti
spaghetti
squash.
squash. Yeah.
Uh-huh. I had to send my spaghetti squash out after. I
Okay.
had all my stuff. I had all my stuff. But when you got that much stuff, I still see where it was sitting. I see it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I see it because it's kind of like to me, like like I think like when I talk with my son or something, he'll say, I'll talk to him sometimes, and I'll say, you know, the Matrix. When I think his name is Neo. Is
Yeah.
his name Neo?
Neo. Yeah.
Right? When he finally like got it, he start moving
Moving the
around
world.
differently. Yeah, you start to feel like that a little bit, like it's out of body, like you don't really know, but you don't know, and you just where things are. And I remember that where it was. I remember it, man. But I wanted to get that out too.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went and made another move so that I could have my sauce ready. And then everything was looking good though, so I was like, it's looking good. Okay, that's looking good. And so then I said, okay, I need to get some B&B plates and do that. And so I did make sure at that point, because of the mental penalization that I had in my heart about it, that that spaghetti squash I napped it with some vegetable stock and made sure it was still tasty, and put some olive oil on there, and just some fiend herbs, and just wanted it to still be tasty because I had all of those components, chef. I just that part, I think just the adrenaline was so, and I couldn't believe I was that close to all the ingredients being done that I think I had gotten lost mentally for a minute. Yeah.
what would you do differently so that you didn't miss it?
I don't know, man. It's kind of sweet. I mean,
I mean,
at
you
the
were
end of the
successful,
day,
right? And
yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, man, I'm thankful that I have a story. I'm thankful that my story's not your story. I'm thankful that you have one. I'm thankful from a brotherhood perspective or a sisterhood, doesn't matter. I'm glad that we will all have a story, and you not forgetting something is great, and that's your path, and your story may be something a little bit on the different side of it, but the combination of stories and knowing that each person has a unique journey, man, isn't that just beyond awesome? Isn't that
yeah,
the most unique thing about our profession, man? Is that your story would be different than mine, and the generations can listen to all of that, and be able to walk away like, well, damn, that's all right. That's all right. Look, I'm human. I did it. I'm telling the truth about that, and but I'll never let that happen again, man. I don't miss nothing. My checklist here is a little bit different. I don't miss nothing here, bro. I don't miss nothing here. But you make mistakes along the way. Is the reason that I share that with you. Is that I humbly make mistakes in life, and I pick up those pieces, but I'm not afraid of the mirror. I'm not afraid of looking at that mirror and saying, Shawn, you could do better. You want better out of yourself. The mirror tells the truth, and that's how I see that, my friend. Is that's how I let the butter, the spaghetti squash go for a bit, because I made a mistake, but it's a little different than me looking at the cart and it was still sitting there and not touched.
that's a very
Now
different thing.
that's different. Now that's a different interview for getting something, right?
That's
That
for
is
real.
truly different.
Yeah.
That's different. You have it, right? There's grace in that. There's grace
Mhm.
that you have it cooked, right? And I was so in an adrenaline. I would have took a black tray myself and walked in there and knocked on the door. I would have knocked on the door. I would have said, I have some beautiful spaghetti squash for you. I think you should taste it with this lovely lamb. I would have done it if I had to.
So, what do you think? And it's funny actually. My brain's all over the place, and I remember that market basket because that was like it was what 30, maybe 34 ingredients, or it was more than 30. I know that, and there were
Mhm.
what 7, 8, 9 proteins. I tried to block that out of
Mhm.
my head. It was a lot of food in that basket. It was a beautiful basket, beautiful food, but I remember
Mhm.
some of those challenges there. So, what were some of the things that you did to prepare for the market basket, to prepare for any market basket?
Um, I did some moments where, for example, I would take parchment paper, and I would um, set up a time with Chef Mancuso, and then um, I would ask him, could he send me a basket like that? And then what I would do, Chef, is I wouldn't have anything with me or around me, and then I would lay out 5 pieces of parchment paper, and I would set a timer, and then ask him to, when can he take the call, and he would say, okay, you can call me tomorrow at noon or something, but it would have been respectfully West Coast time, chef, for him. And then I would say, "Okay, chef." And then when I got him on the phone, I would be on speaker, and then at that moment, I would open the email. It's all about honesty for self.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it. Honesty for self. Repetition for yourself. So I would then I click on, and then I would hit the timer.
Hmm.
And then as I'm writing out the courses and different things and playing the matrix of what I had, I would be talking out loud like I am to you on what I'm thinking about on the strategy of the skate wing versus this versus the grain mustard versus the Napa or something. And then when I felt like I hit all the ingredients and had strong cookery, I would hit stop. And then I would take those pieces of parchment paper and then read it off to him. Not only what I had, but I would take the photographs with my phone and
Gotcha.
then send that to him in the email so that he saw the honesty of what I was trying to accomplish. And then he would write back. That's a good move with that. But then that's when I started to really learn some things like, do you really want to have that when your window opens? Do you want to be doing that or be doing that at the third course or the fourth? So I needed to start to kind of
Mm.
understand why am I setting myself up for the big bang of the symbols on the first course when that's a hard first window, right? I needed to buy myself a little bit more progression, and so those are very helpful for me for the eighth. I think personally that was good for me.
So, all right, that makes sense. So you would get a basket from Chef Mancuso, and then
You know,
you would leave yourself. Would you give yourself the 30 minutes, like for the
yeah,
second? Okay.
right. And then exactly, and then I would say I need to get that down more. I'd like to get that to 22.
Hmm.
I'd like to get that down to 23. Um, I need to think about fatigue because I'll be coming off of cooking already. I need to try to get that to about 20. I need to get that to 26 realistically, something. And then I'd have Chef Beelan write me one, and then I'd have and then I would just keep doing it, but keep sending them, feeding them to Chef Mancuso and or Beelan and or Chef Leonard. Um, you know, um, my most pivotal change though for me was 8 days before. Yeah, no, maybe about 1 month. Sorry, chef. 1 month before
Okay.
the exam, I went to the Polo Club and cooked for um, Chef Leonard and Chef Scannell,
Okay.
and that was heartbreaking. I mean, he pulled me right into a dining room. He said, "You're not ready. You're not ready." He says, "I don't know what you can do in 4 weeks to be ready, but you're not ready." And so then later that evening, after we're done cleaning up or whatever, he asked me as we were departing from that day of cookery,
Hmm.
what was I going to do? Was I still going to take the exam? And I told him absolutely yes, I was going to take it. And so one would say, what was the theory behind it? For me, it was that was a very, very tough rigor of going and cooking that way, because the setup that he had for me was is that you couldn't leave and walk away the line. You had to stay in that spot. So where was the learning of it? That what you forgot, you forgot.
So you had to face it,
You got to face it,
right?
which was the point of me not being ready.
Hmm.
So needless to say, that's a long flight back from Boca. That right there is not even thinking about food. No, I'm not even thinking about sun chokes or I'm not
Right.
thinking about nothing. I'm not thinking about food. I'm thinking about what made him put me in the ocean like that. How much I valued that.
So how
So
did
one
you?
should, yeah,
No, go
yeah.
ahead.
One should really make sure they understand the value in what someone's telling them. There's value there. Study the value of it. and then use it instead of being like, how could he say that? Right now, you're into self again. Don't do that. Study what you're being told mentally. And so I did that, and what I did was I started to rechange my non-food thinking. What did I really need? What didn't I really need? Am I having that sauce pot because it's like my blankie, because I just need that, because I'm just so afraid to not have it? What what is my what why do I need these things? And then I start to really say, I don't need that. I don't need that. I'm going to clean that again. I'm going to use that over again by myself. I don't need an apprentice to do that. And then for the next 3 weeks, I practice without apprentice, no help. Don't set up a cart for me. You're not picking any herbs for me. Nothing. I didn't want help. I did all of my runs without help.
And so what did that do for you? It made you realize
It
what you
showed me everything, how messed up I was, how I depended on others. It showed me it showed me it shows you just subtle handicaps. It just shows you what you're just not, you know, the item that you're looking for someone else to do, you didn't even need it on the plate. It's not even necessary. It's not gonna it wasn't gonna bring you any love, because you forgot to baste anyway, and turn over that roast, and there's other things you forgot. Did you see that? Like it did you see the word love? Did you catch it?
Oh, I got the word love. That's your I mean that's
Yeah,
your last name, of course.
good. That was good. I want to make sure.
I'm
I just want to make sure.
I'm paying attention, chef. I got you.
All right, I just want to make sure. That's okay. Very good. We're on point.
Well, if you're not cooking with love, I don't think you can be successful at that exam.
That's good.
It's
I thought that was pretty good.
I
I thought
thought
it was
well
pretty good.
placed, very well placed.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what I did, man. And those are my, I would say, my last pieces of the puzzle.
Okay, so knowing what you know now,
Hmm.
what would you tell a young chef
Hmm.
who's getting ready for the exam?
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Rid the enemy of that in your mind. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid of what others think? Are you are you afraid of the results? Ask yourself the question instead of all the reasons that you won't do it. I think that is what's in the way. There's no. Don't worry about the external noise. Why not? I always said, why not me?
Why not me?
Why not me? I mean, I'm all right. I'm
You damn
nice.
good cook, chef.
Yeah, I always thought, like, why not? I mean, you know, that's that. I saw your matambre in Myers-Briggs. That's nice. You know, you you absorb through risk, through trying, through. I just believe that in my heart, chef. I do, and I just think I would tell a young cook to um, be sound fundamentally. Um, be careful with um, being someone else. My late secretary told me, "Be yourself. Everyone else is taken." I think it's a. I think it's the most powerful thing that I have on my desk. Be yourself. Everyone else is taken.
Well, and that's a big chunk of that. I mean, this isn't the whole summit isn't just about being a master chef. It's about being a master of the craft. But a big part of that development into mastery is figuring out who you are. I know I struggled with it. I heard you say you struggled with it. That was the thing you said held you back until 2017. And you know how how did you find you?
Just letting go of all the other stuff, not trying stuff that wasn't mine. I knew that I wouldn't have the most, um, I knew that it would always be difficult for me to present things the same way as others because my training was different.
Hmm.
But I always knew pound for pound that I could build wicked flavor. I knew that. Like I knew that like if I just used every second
There he is.
I could I could bang in that. I just knew that. And so I thought that way when I was doing it and that made me like just like raw. Like I knew that I would use every second to taste. I wanted to go through a case of tasting spoons every day. I didn't care. I just, and I knew that if I looked at what someone else was doing and they were lining something up beautifully or whatever, and that wasn't mine, that would derail me and it would destroy my inner. And my inner wasn't that. And I knew that if I walked in and saw the effects of my food after the segments, that one wouldn't be as proud and pleased to look at that versus that, to look at that person's versus mine. But I knew that someone would say to me, "I don't know what you did to that. That's pretty tasty." I knew that I could at least get there, and so that was my goal, chef, from the beginning, my friend. That was my goal. That's all. That's all I had in me was that.
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
got a little lucky.
No, that's the key to food, right? It's got to be delicious first.
Hey, yeah, it's important.
That's something
It's
I struggle
important, man.
with, in this day and age, and I think in our current times is, food's got to be delicious before it's pretty, and I think, you know, food that doesn't have substance is becoming more and more popular because it's attractive, but it just doesn't have that substance, and there's nothing that's going to score. There's nothing that's going to do as much for you as making delicious food. And that's
Yeah, I think that yeah, it's how you keep employment. It's
good. Well
how
said.
it's really how when everyone talks about relevancy, how to be relevant and how to keep up with what's going on today.
Hmm.
That's that a large group of my culinary my staff are, that's how they are. They think about what's going on out there and what's relevant, and what they're learning is that this lobster bisque is relevant. It really is relevant. But it's more relevant when we have a panel, when we taste it and we realize that a little raw brandy in it at the end is right, that you've never done before. There's something there. There's a reason behind it, and there's some thoughts behind it. And so I really believe that that's needed today, and that's what I think that that
Hmm.
that is forgotten. And I think that you'll be relevant forever if you fundamentally are sound. You'll never go hungry. You'll always be needed in the industry. You'll always be needed. You'll always be needed. I can do a nice basted and over easy a strata, a frittata, a sheared, and go and get a nice job at a truck stop right now cooking eggs and be all right, and just love it when that grease hits me just a little on that wrist. I just something about that. I like it, and I just think that that's important, and that's relevancy to me because you're pleasing somebody, and at the end of the day, that's your job. That's how I feel about it. And I know maybe that's a little older kind of guy talking, but that's just how I feel, chef.
Yeah, but I don't disagree either. And I mean, I'm not a young cat either. So
I know, but you're younger than me, and you can pick me up, and I can't pick you up, but that's okay.
I'm a 230-pound dude, chef. Like, you know,
I agree.
I'm,
I agree.
it's just how I'm
But I'll
built.
give you like, yeah, I'll just give you dap. Like, what up, man? My man, what's going on? I'll do that. Yeah, you're from the D. You're from the D. What up, man? What up?
Exactly.
Henry Ford. Henry Ford.
Henry Ford. The first culinary school though that I stepped foot in was Schoolcraft College. It was,
Hmm.
and I got to see, it's when I met Dan Huglier, and that was, he set me off on my path.
My first ride, full ride of, I got free college there, all free. I never paid for any of my education.
It's an amazing education there too. Henry Ford had a good education. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
it's
Meaning anybody that says, "Oh, I'm struggling," I don't really know if I can go, or
yeah.
it's just not true.
There's a way.
It's not true.
There's
There's a
definitely a
way.
way.
There's
And
a way.
yep, and just get around people who love food and who love the fundamentals. And I I I've yet to talk to a chef who's struggling, who executes the fundamentals well when nobody else is looking. I've yet to
Oh,
hear it.
absolutely. You're never gonna go hungry. You'll be straight. It's just a matter of saying, "Oh man, I'm bored. I'm tired of this." You're tired of what? Cooking good?
Yeah.
What? When they say that to me, Chef, I don't really want to do that anymore. Why? What's wrong with it?
What?
Why don't you like that? It's all funny. I find it quite interesting when I do the international stuff because they're excited about what our fundamentals are Western like. They like it. Like they're like, this is cool. So that's what's fun. That's good stuff.
That's well said, chef. So I uh I can't help but say, a massive thank you for sharing your path and a little bit of your story. Is there anything I missed? Is there anything else that you think turned you into the beast that you are? I'm sure there's plenty. I mean, we're talking about, 12 years, over the last 12 years in an entire career, but um, one of,
Mm.
like I said, your tenacity and your persistence is uh, is what it takes, no matter who you are, no matter what
Yeah.
you.
Well, I would say that I'm proud to, to be amongst great chefs. I'm humbled by being able to share like this with you, hoping that we can touch people. I feel in my heart if we can touch one and make a difference with one, like a difference was made with me, then I'm doing something good. Um, I always take the time because I know that someone will need it. And I remember when I did, and whether it's a conversation at the water fountain with Jonta, or it's a conversation with you about a motivational speaker, or it's a combination with Jason Hall about how to do something different or better, or going to Singapore and cooking and having Chef Lawrence McFadden just talk with me about a philosophy in the middle of Singapore, um, and meeting him in Hong Kong and seeing Darren Moore wink at me. And um, I got a lot of stories. I mean, to see Chef Leonard just nod his head at me once. My list is big, but my list is humble, and I'm happy to help those that are connected with you, and I'm happy to help our industry because I believe that if we join forces to continue to push for excellence and continue to push for true fundamental mastery, then we will be able to continue to shake off what people are believing is going to become a lost art. I believe that we can make it. And so that's my position, and I stand with it, bro.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah. So you already know I love you, man. Uh, I think I'm gonna go out here now and make sure they didn't, fold some kind of, I don't know, something that I didn't want in a sauce that they thought was cute or something. No, I'm just joking. No,
But
I'm just joking.
seriously,
You know how,
but
you
seriously,
know
you
how it
never
goes.
know.
Yeah, you know how it goes. Like, yeah, nope, that's a stiff whisk. I don't want to use that for that. We need this. We need this whisk for this. Oh, okay. I still go through those things. So isn't that fundamental though? That
It,
that's a stiff whisk, right?
right tool
I'm
for
saying
the
so.
job, chef.
Yeah, why is that forgotten, right? So they're gonna say, "Oh, here he comes." That's what's gonna happen when I hang out with you, my friend. I'm
Well,
gonna go out there, and they're gonna be like, "Here he comes."
well, well. I know you've touched some things, and even though we had different paths, I can't think of anybody who had exactly the same path through the exam.
No,
And so
no,
that's why I love your story, and I am honestly, truly grateful for you to have shared it, and
absolutely.
I can't wait to cook
Exam
with
is
you again.
really important. Absolutely, the exam is extremely important, um, and it's extremely important for the audience that you capture,
Mm.
and they should accept the journey of it because it's real and it changes your life.
Well, well said.
All right, Chef.
Thank you,
All right,
Chef.
man. I'll
Talk to
see
you
you
soon.
soon, brother. All right,
Later,
much
brother.
love. Yep.
Bye.
Later, man.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say other than that was probably a man with a phenomenal story, and I think there were more than a few times when his story or his humor, his smile, maybe pulled me out of a little bit of a challenging moment. We all face those moments. We all have those periods of time when we're struggling with something, and we just need a moment to get out of it. Classical day was a tough day for me. I managed to make my way through, but just like with anything else, if you get inside of your head, some challenging things can occur. So I hope that you were able to take some really great things from that conversation with Chef Loving. And if you're ever looking for a great chef to spend a little bit of time with, Chef Loving is a phenomenal person to do that. He does seminars around the country. He did a classical training just before 2020 happened, and he's a huge proponent for the Master Chef exam. And he, whenever you see him, if you get an opportunity to work with him, to see him work, to hear him speak, I guarantee you it'll be time well spent. I know for me, I remember hearing about how many runs he was doing and how he did his market basket runs, and that actually helped me prepare a little bit better for the market basket segment. And that's actually one of the reasons why I encourage people to write menus now at the end of dinner service or after a holiday. After doing Thanksgiving service, it's a great time to write a menu because, quite honestly, you're spent, your brain's fried, and that's what it's going to be like if you're taking the Master Chef exam. Now, this whole day isn't necessarily about the Master Chef exam. This is about mastering the craft. There's many different components involved in that. The Master Chef exam requires you to be a master cook, but in order to be successful at that test, you need to be a master of the craft. You need to be a master at heart. That takes time. There's lots of little skills and little steps involved. There's all a load of different little things that need to go into it. You need to have the habits of mastery. You need to be that chef every single day in order to be successful. And my practice leading up to the exam was designed to test that entirely. In a little while, I'm going to talk about micro failures and macro failures. I'm coming up here at 4:30, so I kind of wanted to go through a little bit though and do just a slight little recap from this morning session. Right, it's 20 to 4 right now. We've had a few great presentations, and I wanted you to kind of take a minute and think about something. Knowledge is in itself useless if it's not applied, right? So you can hear all of these things and you'll probably retain about, 10 to 15% of it. Now, if you're actively taking notes, retention goes up. Retention goes up to 40 or 50%, right? Depending whether you look at it or not, actually, whether you review them in the future or not. But if you're sitting there taking notes, actively listening, your retention goes up massively. But then if you recall that information within a short period of time, your retention goes way up to around 90%. So from our morning session, be it Master Chef Andrini or the Monk and the Mastermind, Rick and Craig, Chef Chris Galarza, or Master Chef Shawn Loving, what's something that you want to remember from this morning session? So why don't you take, 20, 30 seconds if you're here, and think through let's do this. Take 45 seconds and write down as many things as you want to remember from this morning's sessions, right? I'm going to set a little timer, play a little music, let your mind wander. Right now, think through Chef Andrini talking about the apprenticeship, the mastery of the small pieces of the craft. Think about the work that went into leaping from the apprenticeship, taking him overseas, working in Canada, his successes and failures along the way. He didn't talk a lot about his failures, but there were lots of successes. Working for Bruno Marti and seeing a whole new side of the craft. Those 8 keys of the ideal apprenticeship. Think about what an apprenticeship means to you and what it could mean to the craft as a whole. If you talk about Rick and Craig, who started off at 11:30, think about what it means to be a holistic, modern leader. What does it mean to be a 21st century leader? Did they have some concepts that they introduced that you've never heard of before? Personally, I really enjoyed their discussion about mindfulness and actually kind of laying out what that meant. Think about how you can go about adjusting the work environment that you provide for a staff to encourage staff retention. Did you pick up any tips on meditation or any tips of interactions that you can incorporate into your emails? Or is there something that you learned from them as they were talking about working to create a better industry? One of my favorite takeaways from that was talking about making the hospitality industry a noble profession again. And then Chef Chris Galarza talking about kitchen electrification, something that we all know is there, but we never really talk about. We don't think about what happens under the surface, or realizing that there's probably regulation of some sort coming if you're paying attention to what's going on in the news, or regardless of your political viewpoints, there is some regulation probably coming for the gas that we use in the kitchen. Is it better to react to that, or is it better to try and get out in front of it? Did you take a deeper understanding of technology? Did you realize some of the things that maybe you take for granted, or some of the things that you already use? I know I enjoyed the video where a person was starting a cell phone, or no, it was a blender, starting up a blender. It was a gas-powered blender. We found that kind of entertaining, actually. But it's realistic. There's a lot of things in our life that we use that are electric, so why not incorporate it further if it makes more sense? I know when you start talking about the precision of cooking, there's a lot that's there. There's a lot of usefulness that's there. When you start talking about the comfort zone, that's actually something worth talking about, because I know I've had those days where I've thrown up on the line from being too hot, that's for sure. And knowing that the newer generation of cooks won't deal with that, don't we need to do something? These are those somethings that maybe can help make for a transition in our industry. Or maybe talking to Shawn Loving, listening to Master Chef Loving and his humor, but his heart and soul that he puts into the things that he says, some of his major lessons, were there things that you took from his conversation that you're not going to forget? What of those things is something that you want to incorporate into your life? Are there some of those little steps, some of those little things that you learn that you'd like to dive into a little bit deeper? Is there something that you'd like to feel a little bit more? Is there something that you'd like to learn a little bit more about? I mean, part of my goal here is to introduce you to other professionals and other people that I've worked with, experts who have insights that can lead to a better quality of life. I know chefs contact me talking about balance all the time, and I know balance is a very complicated subject. It's really hard to talk about balance when you're working 10, 12 hours a day, 5, 6, 7 days a week, right? You still need 6 hours of sleep. That leaves you with 6 spare hours of not working. How exactly does that equate to balance? I've never really understood mathematically how balance is possible. Now, the idea of counterbalance and trying to find a way to go from 10 to 12 hour days at work to hyper engaged, hyper focused 10 to 12 hour days with the family, and then being able to enjoy some time off as well, that works. But that takes active engagement in your schedule, active engagement of your work, and really truly evaluating the things that you're doing on the day to day in order to get to that level of balance. One of the biggest obstacles that I see for so many chefs is that challenge in delegating the things that need to be delegated. Yes, there are a lot of things I do really well, and there's a lot of things that I do better than the people that I pay hourly to do them. Cutting onions, turning potatoes, turning carrots, fluting mushrooms. But that's not what I'm paid to do. And that's a conversation that we need to start having with ourselves in order to start making the decisions that really matter. Because even though we may be a little bit faster cutting mirepoix and setting up the line for service, that's the time that we should be spending elsewhere as well. There are things that we absolutely cannot miss in our work life. But the things that we miss in our home life are things that we can never get back either. I heard a great analogy at one point about balance where, if you think of the work ball as a rubber ball, think of the profession ball as a rubber ball, and think of the family ball as a glass ball. Now, if you're juggling those three things, no matter what, if you drop a work ball, it's going to bounce and you're going to be able to pick it back up. You may have some struggles, you may have some challenges, but you'll be able to pick it back up. If you drop that glass family ball, though, when it really matters, you risk breaking it, chipping it, permanently altering it in some way, shape, or form, and it's probably not going to bounce nearly as much as one of the rubber balls. There has to be that priority put. Otherwise, you're going to be trying to deal with the chipped, broken glass ball that you're trying to juggle. Balance is a hard thing to reach, but with active pursuit, you can start to find a way. Really requires looking at your day-to-day, and one of my favorite techniques is time blocking. I can talk about that a little bit later, but trying to focus on what you should be doing at the time is what's going to lead you to finding that balance. So if balance is something that you're looking for, let me know and we can spend a little bit more time talking about it. I don't want to wax on for a very long time because I just want to make sure that we finish up our little recap, talk you through this afternoon session, and then I'm going to let you go for a little break for, 25, 30 minutes. So before we do that, though, I have a couple more questions for you to consider. What is something that you want to incorporate into your life from this morning? I already asked that. What is one action from this morning that you want to take? Now, I'm doing this with you right now because before you get up and go do something else, I want you to take a minute. Pick one thing. If you're bold, pick 2 or 3. Pick one thing that you want to incorporate from this morning session and figure out how exactly, not even how exactly you're going to incorporate that, but what your first step is going to be to incorporate that. If you're looking at some of the teachings of Rick and Craig from Mindful University, perhaps reaching out and looking at their certification as a potential program. They've got a 26 module course that's awesome. I skimmed through it. I haven't taken it. I haven't done it. I will though. And I know that there's a PDF that I have and I'd love to share with you. So I'll be sending that out in email to everybody who's registered for our summit today. So there's that. There's kitchen electrification. If you're looking to go down that path, reach out to Chef Chris Galarza or do a little bit of further research online. I'm a big proponent of induction cookery. I think it's a phenomenal advancement in the kitchen. I really can't see not working with it. Gas is a lot less expensive on the surface, but over time there's other expenses that come along, right? It's important to dig a little deeper into what you believe and see if that's really true. So often we make assertions, we make assumptions, we make statements assuming that the entire statement is true. But a lot of it's based on old information that may not even have come from us. There's a lot of things that we're programmed with as children by our parents, or we're programmed with by chefs coming up through the industry, taught by teachers, and somehow our brain labels it as truth. If you find that you're saying something and you don't necessarily know where it's coming from, ask yourself that question. That's a powerful question. Say, is that true? Is that something that is really true? Is this serving me well? By the way, going back a little bit, I loved Rick and Craig's question. What would your staff say about you? And do you want to know? I'd hit home. An earlier version of me, and at points, an older version of me, I don't know, may have some bumpy spots there. And I'm not saying I should always be super agreeable. I'm not saying everybody always has to be super agreeable, but you have to be consistent. You should be consistent, and my rule has become to make sure that I always add something positive to the people that are around me. Sometimes that's tough love. Sometimes that's having a hard standard and letting people understand what that is and what that means. But being hard on the standard, not on the person. That was one of those things that I had to separate from my youth as a cook. Learning how not to get emotional and how not to attack cooks who were making mistakes, who weren't doing the work that I needed them to do. Unfortunately, that was what I was taught. But we can unteach ourselves too. Just take a look around and see if what you're doing is working. But if what you're doing is working, but it could be better, it could be just the same as being broken. So what could you do to up your game? How could you evolve? How could you twist that? How could you change that? How could you become more? So let's see. It's just a few minutes before 4 this evening. I'm going to kick off the evening session at 4:30 with the power of the first draft and the mindset of mastery. Open up for a little Q&A at the end. If anybody has any questions, I encourage you to enter them into the chat, and I will answer them as I can. Then we're going to get into Chefs Paul and Chrissy Jensen. Chef Paul is an ACF judge. He's a competitor. He's a CEC. Chef Chrissy is a CEPC, and one of her, greatest accolades, one of the coolest things that I think is that she is celiac, so she's allergic to wheat gluten, And she completed her CEPC completely gluten-free. She did it well. She passed with high marks and insisted on doing it completely gluten-free. So it's possible, and she did it in a beautiful way. So I'm really excited for them to share their principles and some of their keys to working together because they have a cool story. They made a life change so that they could work together, have more family time, and now own and run a restaurant and multiple units, as well as a really impressive gluten-free mix business. It's really cool to see. So I can't wait for them to share their story. And then after that, Chef Ken Arnone, Master Chef Ken Arnone, one of my mentors, he's going to talk about some of those basic principles of mastery. Some really essential things that I think everybody would benefit from hearing. I know I love hearing about it, and that's why I asked him to talk about it. These are conversations that he and I had either over Chinese, over Indian, I don't know, in many of our conversations while I was asking him to evaluate me for a competition. Ken's been there for a long time, and I think it's really exciting for him to be willing to come on and share his presentation about that. So there's going to be some very clear action steps and some real clear standards that are going to be laid to the ground. I think that's a word that we don't hear about a lot, and that's a word that I think people tend to back away from. But that's exactly where I think it's important to learn how to master the craft and understand what that takes, understand what that standard means, and then be an ally in holding that standard. It's no different than Olivier talking about aioli. We've all used the word to describe a mayonnaise-based product, but once you know better, you can still do better. Sure, it sounds cool, but once you understand that you're not actually serving an aioli, it should make you at least think twice and help you use vocabulary. I haven't talked to a chef who's been excited about somebody misusing culinary terminology. Every little misuse, though, chips away at the foundation that we try and teach. It chips away at the information that we're trying to share with other people. Mastery. And then at 9 o'clock, Certified Master Chef Ferdinand Metz and I had a phenomenal interview. We're going to get into that. Now, if you heard our podcast, some of it will sound familiar, but there's some parts in there that weren't in the podcast. A little bit more to it. And it was a beautiful interview that he and I had, and a great conversation that I want to share with you so that you can see and understand how important it is to take pride in the mastery of the craft, passing that torch. And then at 10 o'clock or right around 10:05, just after that, I'm going to wrap it all up. And I can't believe how fast the day is going. I really am excited that you are here sharing this time with me. Thank you so much for spending your time being here. I'm going to encourage you to enjoy yourself, have a little break, drink some water, grab yourself a cup of coffee, because I probably will. Have a snack, and then at 4:30, 30 minutes, we're going to be back, and I'm going to be coming alive with the power of the first draft. So have a great break. Have yourself a nice bite to eat, and I will talk to you soon.